So, I have watched episode 3 a few more times, and it's really sunk in now just how bad it was. And I have a few more things to say. Like, I thought of so many more complaints that I decided that I needed to make a whole nother video just to talk about some of this stuff. So, like, I did mention this in my review, but, like, isn't it, like, super weird how the Dothraki just totally charge into the darkness? Like, what was the game plan, like, there? That they just defeat the White Walkers and then that's it? Like, the only thing that could have happened would be, like, they all die and then the White Walkers keep coming. Like, what was the point of that even? And it was like, it's like the Melisandre Fire thing looked cool, but it did absolutely nothing. So that was like, first of all, stupid battle plan. And you know what else? Like, Winterfell is meant to be defended from inside the castle wall, so it's like, why are you outside anyways? Like, that's the whole point of a castle, is that you defend it from the inside. Yeah, and then, it's also funny that, like, when John and Danny are, like, watching it, like, as soon as things don't go their way, Danny is like, you know what, fuck the plan. She's like, to hell with the plan, I'm gonna go fly my dragon now. Which is funny because it's like, what's the point of, like, having that meeting in the other episode, figuring out the plan, if you're just gonna abandon the plan immediately, even though it was a stupid plan? She just, like, immediately abandons it. So it's just like, what's the point? What was the point of even having a plan? And, speaking of their stupid plan, one thing that I noticed after watching it a few times was that when the trench needed to be lit and they were like, Daenerys can't see, Jon Snow is, like, right there. Jon Snow had landed on a tower, so he was, like, at the castle. Like, he should have been able to see that the trench needed to be lit. He was right there. Why didn't he just light the trench? Like, so, that's really freaking did they not think about that? Did they not even think about that? And you know what? It's not even the humans, the living, that had a stupid plan. Like, the Night King, this joke of a villain, like, his plan was dumb as balls, too. Like, first of all, right, the Night King knows that he has this weakness where, like, Valyrian steel will just shatter him. Like, he saw Jon Snow shatter that other White Walker at Hardhome, so he knows what it does. So, like, if you know you've got this crazy freaking weakness where, like a poke with Valyrian steel that's just gonna turn you into a bunch of ice cubes, then why do you even come to the battle? Like, he could have controlled the dragon from a distance. He didn't need to be riding it. He could have stayed off somewhere far away with his generals and just watched. Like, don't even risk it. Just let them go in and kill everybody. Have Bran brought to you. Why do you go to him? Like, that's stupid. And you know what? The Night King is such a disaster of a villain. It is so funny now. It is so funny now that everyone's eyes are open. Because it feels like for the past several years, I have been fighting an uphill battle against, like, mindless fanboys that just love Game of Thrones no matter what, no matter how many plot holes it has. And I've been called a hater for years now. But now something happened with this episode and everyone has finally woken up to how shitty this writing is. But if you are being honest, you have got to wake up and realize this writing has been shitty for years now. For years now. And you're just now seeing it because you got cheated. You got cheated out of a fulfilling resolution to this conflict that they've been building up for the past 7 seasons, and that is the conflict of the White Walkers. The show opened with the White Walkers. This is the deep lore of the whole show. In season 1, freaking old Nan is telling a story about how they swept over cities and kingdoms and felled heroes and armies by the score, and kings froze to death in their castles, and it was so awful that women were smothering their children so that they didn't starve to death in the long night. And yeah, what a joke calling this the long night. It should be called the regular length night because it wasn't a long night. I mean, that's just a stupid title when it was a regular length night. So they spent all this time hyping up these White Walkers as, like, the greatest threat ever, and they don't even get past Winterfell. Literally, Theon captured Winterfell for longer than the Night King. This idiot's supposed to be, like, the Lord of Death, like a serious This is supposed to be a serious dude, right? Like, I just can't. Now I see the Night King and I just think memes. I just laugh. What, like I said, what a joke of a villain. Like, the Night King has to be one of the most disappointing villains of all time, right? And it didn't have to be like this. The Night King could have been up there with freaking Darth Vader and Voldemort. He could have been up there with the freaking iconic villains that everyone loves. But no, because they didn't bother to give him any kind of personality whatsoever or any kind of motivation whatsoever. And it's almost comical. It's not even almost comical. It just flat out is comical to see the few people that are trying to hold on and defend this. Because I'm sorry, at this point you've got no ground to stand on. It's just like the only way is if what we saw in this episode isn't real. That's the only way this could be redeemed. If what we saw in this episode isn't real and the Night King is still alive somehow and they somehow didn't defeat the army of the dead, but I'll tell you what, don't count on it, because it looks like the next 3 episodes it's just going to be this conflict with Cersei. So you know what that is? A bunch of goddamn filler is what it is. It's going to be a bunch of filler because you know what they're good at is the big battles. You know, intrigue and dialogue, not so much. Not at all. Not at all. You know, Arya literally jumped off of a trampoline from nowhere, right? Like, I saw like a little behind the scenes clip and she literally jumps from nowhere. So it's like, how can you complain about someone complaining that Arya killed the Night King in that way? When it even given her skill set, it makes no sense. And then Sam literally lying on the ground fighting White Walkers. Like, how the hell are you alive? How the hell are you alive? And then Brienne and Jaime and Podrick, like, pushed up against a wall with like 400 White Walkers pushing it against them, and then they're all fine. They're not like crushed to death. Like, how are any of you alive? I mean, come on. We're not this stupid. Just like the human race as a whole, as a species, we're not this stupid to think that this is acceptable in a show that used to be so grounded in reality and consistent. And you know what really cracks me up and has always cracked me up and then also kind of infuriated me was oh, it's fantasy. You know, that argument where it's like, oh, it's fantasy. How can you accept this, but you can't accept her jumping out of the dark and killing the Night King suddenly? I mean, come on. See, that's the type of thing that someone that has no respect for the genre says. I mean, if you got any kind of respect for the fantasy genre whatsoever, you would never use the it's fantasy excuse to justify something, it just like any random thing happening. It would be like in Harry Potter, I've used this example before. It would be like in Harry Potter, if like Hermione all of a sudden started using magic, channeling through a rubber ducky or something instead of a wand. You know, because it would make no sense. Like, the whole point of a fantasy universe is that it has its own internally consistent rules that it follows. And it's established what can happen and what can't happen, right? When random things can happen willy-nilly, that's not a coherent story being told. That's just like random shit happening for no reason. Okay, so to those people, if in the next episode, if Ghost, Jon's direwolf, walks up to Cersei and then shoots laser beams out of his eyes and explodes her head, would you be willing to use the it's just fantasy excuse to justify that happening? Because it's just fantasy. I mean, there's dragons and White Walkers. Why can you accept dragons and White Walkers, but you can't accept Ghost shooting lasers out of his eyes and killing Cersei? Yeah, you see why that argument is stupid? You see why that argument makes no goddamn sense? And then God, and then frickin' Bran. See, you know, I tried to read into it. I tried to read into it and figure out if he had something going on. But Indie Geek convinced me. He's just flying around looking at everything through the Ravens. It seemed like maybe they were trying to leave the door open for something, but it really just looks like he was just flying around with the Ravens, not doing anything. Not doing anything. And to all those comments that are going to be posted, like, oh, so you think you can do better than the showrunners? I want to officially say yes. I want to officially say yes to that question. Do I think that I could do better? Yes, 100% I could have done this better. They should have hired me. Like, they really should have. Because 100% I could have written this better than what they did. For sure. Like, you could have gotten me and a team of other YouTubers and we would have done a much better job. For sure. Alright, that was cathartic. If Cersei is killed by Arya, I'm going to set my Game of Thrones Blu-rays on fire and film it and upload it to YouTube.